Welcome to Babies from Beyond, the podcast that gives all babies a voice, whether they are still in spirit or already Earthside. I'm Lauren Dionysius, a former registered NICU nurse turned baby soul communicator, and I'm here to share the wisdom of today's babies to guide you on your motherhood journey. Okay, so in today's episode, I really want to talk about something that I feel very passionate about. And as many of you know, I spent many years working in the NICU caring for babies who had already been born and were having a very difficult time adjusting to the earth. So my intention with this episode is to address the journey that the soul goes through and that transition as they adjust to life here on the earth, to adjust to being that soul, that energy, and coming into human form, and how it can be really, really challenging for babies. So it's about becoming more curious and just beginning to think and feel well beyond the physical with these babies and their journey. And just cultivating an understanding and awareness of this part of a child's journey, or a soul's journey for that matter. So in this episode, I'm going to explore the early signs that a baby's soul might be having a hard time adjusting to Earth, particularly in those first 3 years. And the reason that I talk about the first 3 years is that, like any adjustment, like any transition, it takes time. And usually by around 3, babies and children tend to be much more adapted and adjusted to their new experience on the earth. But those first 3 years can be challenging, and this episode is about helping you to understand what might be happening on a soul level when your baby lands here on this planet. And this episode is also the foundation for my upcoming Birth to Earth course, where I share really practical tools to support these babies energetically with this transition, with this adjustment. So to start with, what does it look like for a soul to struggle on the earth side? Like, how do we know that they're struggling or having a tough time? Because I remember when I was working as a NICU nurse in the nursery, babies would often confuse me because they would be fed, they will be clean, they would be burped, they would be warm and toasty, yet they would still be yelling at me. They would still be upset or unsettled. They wouldn't want to sleep. And I remember having this feeling, what are they trying to tell me here? Like, is there something I'm missing? What's going on? And it wasn't until I started really diving deeper and looking beyond their physical needs that I realized there was a whole lot more going on for these little people behind the scenes. So what they taught me is that they find the earth loud and fast and often really overwhelming to their senses, especially the lights, the sounds, the sensations in their body, the pace, and even the emotional energy from those around them can be intense. And this is not to blame or judge anyone. This is just part of being in the world. We are surrounded by people who have different energies and different emotions. And when you are a soul energy that's used to floating about in spirit, and then you become tethered or connected to a human body, it's like the senses are absolutely amplified and can be a lot for these new arrivals. So because they've come from a place in spirit where things were much softer, things were much slower, more fluid, less restrictive, more freedom, and much more light. And then they come here to the earth, and many babies will crash land here because the world is dense and it's heavy, and they're now suddenly restricted to this tiny human body. So it's a big adjustment for them, not only their physical body, once it's no longer on the inside and it's now on the outside, but it's also a huge adjustment for their energy field and their soul as they land here. So one thing I learned is that it's not about labeling babies as difficult or fussy or even easy or chilled. And it's also not about worrying that you're missing something or not doing it right. What I found really helped me to care for these babies in a more holistic and empowered and even helpful way was to just recognize that, hey, these are new little people to the earth. They need time to adjust to this dense, unfamiliar world that they're now living in. And while this adjustment does look different for each baby, there's a few key signs that I've learned to recognize along the way. And that's what I really want to dive into today. So even just have a think about, the difficulties that you may have seen with your own children when they adjust to earth, or maybe other people's children if you don't yet have your own. But one of the biggest issues that I found with babies is sleep difficulties. It's they have trouble falling asleep, or they don't stay asleep. If they do drop off to sleep, they seem to be hyper alert or overly sensitive to sounds and light, like I've already mentioned. They can have difficulty or this resistance to moving into those deeper states of rest. And what I learned from these babies is that sleep to them means surrender. And to surrender into something, they also need to trust. And we can bring this into our life as an adult as well. But a baby who is still learning, who has just arrived here and is still learning to feel safe in their body or here on the earth, can resist this trust or find it hard to access that trust, let alone the surrender, because something for them about life in a body here on the earth still feels unfamiliar, or it feels uncomfortable or foreign to them. And they're trying to acclimate or get used to the earth's energy. So this can really affect their sleep. Another thing with babies is feeding issues or digestion problems, whether it's with colic or reflux or constipation or diarrhea, any of these things. But what I learned with the babies I was caring for was to look beyond just the physical digestion of milk, or with older children, that physical digestion of food. Because babies and children are not only learning how to digest milk and food, but on a metaphysical body, they're also learning how to digest life. The energy around them, that difference in energy between spirit and earth, as well as the emotions of those and the energy of those around them and the environment that they're living in. It's a lot for their nervous system to regulate, and the gut also forms a huge part of this as well. So it made sense to me when I started thinking, okay, this baby, they're not just trying to digest their milk, but they're also trying to digest being a little human in a physical human body. And that's a lot. So I'm not surprised that this child is having issues with their milk or is feeling uncomfortable or unsettled. So sleep, digestion. Another thing is being really unsettled, or like they're trying to communicate, but you can't quite understand. Again, it's like all their needs are being met on the human level, but they're still crying. They're still fussy. They may even resist your touch or your hugs, and nothing really helps them to settle, or at least not for very long. It doesn't last. And what I learned from these children is that this fussiness, this restlessness, this crying even, is part of their communication to us. And it's them moving energy through their own body. And because I remember a baby once said to me that when I'm restless and unsettled, it's how I communicate with you before I have the words to do so. It's how my nervous system and my energy field offloads everything that I'm trying to digest. It's how it offloads the excess energy or all of the energy coming at me from the external world. This fussiness and this crying or this restlessness is how my nervous system moves it through my body. And that's something that really helped me to realize, it's not something that I'm doing wrong. That, have I missed something because they're not settling, they're not going to sleep, They're staring at me with their big blue eyes. But what I realized is that they were trying to tell me that they were trying to adjust to this earth here. And so, yeah, maybe you have felt that too, this like knowing in your body, or even a confusion, like I've ticked all the boxes, I've given them everything I think they need, but I just don't know. There's something off. There's just a feeling I have like they're trying to say something. And often the parents I work with tend to brush this aside or dismiss it as just a feeling or anxiety or things like that. But what I've come to realize is that there can be this like deep knowing that, okay, they may not be sick or something really wrong with them, not necessarily in a medical way, but something just doesn't feel right with them. And now when I speak with women who say this, I say, don't dismiss that, like lean into that, especially if it lingers, if it's not just a fleeting thought or a fleeting feeling that comes and goes, but it kind of hovers around a bit. Because what I've learned is that this is often a message from your baby's soul, and it's on the soul level, not the human level, on the soul level, that's waiting to be received by you, not because you need to fix it, but because they're asking you to listen or inviting you to listen more deeply or to be more curious about where they're at and what they need, well beyond their physical human baby needs. And as I mentioned, these are not problems to fix. They're more about invitations to connect. Because often your baby might be trying to say to you, hey, I'm adjusting here. I'm still kind of in between. I haven't quite left spirit. I haven't fully landed on the earth. It's like I'm still landing here. And this, can you help me? And what I've learned is when we learn to listen at the soul level, to meet them where they're at, and to just lean into their world with a sense of curiosity, babies will often respond to that energetically, not because you've gone ahead and fixed them or fixed what was going on with them, but because they feel seen and because they feel heard. And this, I think, beyond safety, feeling safe, I think feeling seen and heard are definitely the next priority for today's children. So you as your baby's mother, it's like, well, what can you do with this? Now, what you don't need to do is you don't need to be a healer. You don't need to go and do Reiki or do all of these different things to work on them. It's about trusting what you feel. And if their human needs are already being met, then yeah, just asking or being curious, is there something deeper that can be going on here? Something on the soul level. And like I mentioned before, trusting that sense that you may have, it's like this sixth sense that something just is feeling a bit off or they're trying to tell you something. So trust that, listen to that, don't dismiss that. And what I found was the simple but most powerful and quickest thing to do when I was working with babies in the NICU is I would always say three things to them. I would always tell them that they're safe, that they are loved, and that they're never alone. And I found that just really helped to give them this sense. It's like I could feel their little nervous system softening into those words, into the energy. And even just being acknowledged like, yeah, things are a little weird right now. I don't really get this world yet. But when you say to them, you're safe, you're loved, and you're never alone, it can really help to soften the edges of this transition for them. So maybe try that. See how that feels if you share that with your baby, if you say that to them. And again, we're talking 0 to 3, but saying this to any child and even saying it to yourself. You know, there's times where I will say to myself, if I'm going through something or things are a bit bumpy or I'm feeling a bit ungrounded or stressed, then I'll always put a hand on my own heart and say, I'm safe, I'm loved, and I'm never alone. And I feel my shoulders drop. I feel my heart open. I feel my nervous system soften and become more relaxed. So try it with yourself, but also try it with your babies too. And then just listen to how they respond to that. And I'm not necessarily meaning listening with your ears. I mean listening with your energy field, listening with your intuition, listening with your eyes, with your ears, with your body, with all of it. So just in summary of today's episode, these early years in a baby or child's life can be really challenging. And this is not through anything that you have or haven't done. It's just the transition of going from a soul into a human body. And there's that time that's required to learn to adjust to the earth, and something that does take time. And when babies are going through this transition, I've never had a baby say to me, "Oh, I don't want to be here," or "I made the wrong decision." There's always like a sense of knowing that they made a decision to come to the earth, and it's like, oh, okay, now I've landed. Now I'm going through that process of adjustment. So it's not like they don't want to be here. It's just that they're still arriving here. They are still landing here on the earth. So yeah, if your baby has been unsettled with any of the things that I mentioned today, it can be with crying, with sleep, with digestion, with just feeling something's off, with them trying to tell you something, any of these things, know that it's not a reflection on you. You haven't done anything wrong, and neither have they. You are both learning from each other. They are trying to understand the world, and you are trying to understand them. And that takes time. I'm not saying that by 3 years, everything is automatically fine and perfect. Some babies, it takes them longer. Other babies, it takes less, depending on the soul and their energy. But usually, as I said, by around the age of 3, then things are a little more sorted for them. They've adjusted more deeply. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. If this episode did resonate with you, if you do have a baby or a newborn or a young child under the age of 3, then please keep an eye out for my upcoming Birth to Earth course, which I actually created after many years of caring for babies in the NICU and learning to listen to them and trying to understand their journey and their transition to the earth, well beyond their physical human needs. And as I did this, as I started to lean in and started to listen more, they showed me ways to support them energetically, things that I could do to help them adjust to life here. And now, after many years of practicing their wisdom, refining their wisdom, I've put together a super simple 90-minute online course that you can do anywhere, anytime. And it's all about energetically supporting your baby or child in those first 3 years. So check out the link in the show notes for more info if this is something that you are interested in learning more about or are interested in supporting your baby or child more. Even if you are pregnant and they haven't landed here on the earth yet, it's still something that you can use to support them and also to support you to support them as well. Thank you for tuning in to Babies from Beyond. If you've enjoyed this episode, I'd love for you to leave me a review just wherever you listen to your podcasts. Also, head over to Instagram and give me a follow at Born Energy, and check out the show notes for more ways that you can connect with your baby's soul, including one-on-one readings and online programs to support you. Until next time, trust your journey and your baby. Take care.